Brian, that car killed you. And when it did, a little part of me died as well. I couldn't live without you, so I came back from the future to save your life.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 nicest things Stewie Griffin has done.
You know what, Brian? We actually did make Meg's life a little bit better. She got to dump someone.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most surprising and wholesome moments in Family Guy, where the normally mischievous Stewie was instead caring and kind. If you saw your favorite Stewie moment featured here, let us know in the comments. Number 10. Stewie takes Chris to the past. Some of the best moments on the show take place when Brian and Stewie go on a time-traveling adventure. And while the duo doesn't normally have tag-alongs, they make an exception for Chris.
Chris, you're dreaming with consequences.
What?
That's right. We're going to take you on a special dream trip to help you pass your history test.
The older Griffin brother needs to pass his history final, but he doesn't know much about history. Stewie and Brian save the day by taking Chris on a tour of the past through Stewie's time machine. But when Chris unknowingly boards the Titanic, Stewie and Brian have to save him yet again.
If I'm such a moron, then how did I get on a fancy boat?
Stewie takes extreme measures to care for his older brother, as he not only cares about making sure Chris is safe, but that he succeeds in school as well, which is no easy task.
Hey everybody, I'm Teacher Doug, and I don't believe in tests.
Yay!
Number 9. Stewie takes on Meg. It's no secret that Meg is the family punching bag, so it's endearing to see Stewie try to help her.
She deserves a better life than this, Brian. And you know what? I'm going to give it to her.
When she saves him from choking on a grape, he decides to repay her by improving her social status and dating life. Stewie starts by getting Meg the lead in the school play, but he has a hard time staying out of the spotlight.
Oh, wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied? What satisfaction canst thou have tonight?
He steals the show even during his brief appearance on stage, so he instead tries to set her up with Joe's son, Kevin. Even though their relationship doesn't work out, Meg feels good about herself after the experience.
It actually felt great to be empowered for once. Good night, guys.
So Stewie still ended up bettering her life, even if it wasn't in the way he'd envisioned. Number 8. Stewie helps Chris get ready for a date. While Stewie and Brian may have the most iconic friendship on the show, the bond between Chris and Stewie definitely has its moments.
Where are we? Oh no.
Hey, Chris, do you know your back knee spells Citibank in Braille?
When they're both lost in the woods, they get to know one another, and Chris tells Stewie he has a crush on a girl at school. Stewie vows to help him win her over if they ever get back home.
I'm gonna finally open up to Ellen from my math class and tell her how much I like her.
I'd like those things for us, Chris.
He later transforms Chris into a perfect gentleman while singing one of the catchiest tunes Family Guy has ever produced.
You've got to look your best tonight, you tubby little parasite, 'cause there's a lovely lady and she's waiting for you.
This episode proves that Stewie wants his family members to be happy, and is one of the earliest times in the show we get to see him and Chris connect. Number 7. Stewie and Brian bond. We're used to seeing Brian and Stewie get into all sorts of funny hijinks, but the episode where they get locked in a vault takes a different turn.
Why do you have a safety deposit box anyway? What's in there that you can't bury in the yard?
I have things.
You have a dead bird in there? What are you going to do with that?
In this one, we see only Brian and Stewie, no other characters, no opening theme song, and no cutaways. This gives us a chance to see the best and the worst of each character, which leads to the most vulnerable and open conversation we've seen between the two.
You know, I've tried to find meaning in my life, and I just can't.
And that bottle of scotch?
I was saving it for my last drink.
Stewie lends a sympathetic ear as Brian tells him that he keeps a gun in his safe in case things get to be too much.
You wouldn't understand, you're just a kid.
Well, I could try.
I don't know. Sometimes it's all too much.
Although Stewie doesn't quite understand, it's clear he's trying to while he gives comfort to his best friend. Number 6. Stewie writes a song for Susie. Stewie normally only has eyes for his teddy bear Rupert's, but when Susie Swanson is born, everything changes.
Who is that angel?
That's Susie Swanson.
You don't say.
Stewie tries his hand at songwriting, and while he struggles with it at first, he creates a masterpiece by the end of the episode.
You got your G chord right here. It's like your cozy house where you live.
That's where you start your journey. Here I am in my house, nice and cozy. And then you poke your head out the door with a C chord.
Stewie sings his own version of Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams, accompanied by a confusing yet somehow beautiful music video.
Look into your heart. You will find there's nothing there to hide.
The video seems to be full of Stewie's reflection of himself, and clearly his love for Susie has sent him down a rabbit hole of self-discovery and creativity. Unfortunately, his infatuation with Susie ends about as quickly as it starts, but the song and video are still sweet gestures.
So, how'd Susie like your video?
I don't care about her anymore. I'm in love with Bryan Adams.
Number 5. Bryan and Stewie Save Meg. While most episodes of Family Guy show the Griffins being, let's say, indifferent towards Meg, this episode shows Stewie and Bryan going above and beyond for her.
These guys are serious.
Lois, Meg's dead!
After Meg gets taken during her trip abroad to Paris, Stewie uses his power of deduction to find the people who kidnapped her.
Where'd you get that hat?
A girl gave it to me.
What did she look like?
She had a great personality.
That's her.
He and Bryan go to great lengths to bring Meg back home to safety, even going as far as to dress up and blend in. Even though Bryan and Stewie end up rescuing her from a nice man who actually wants to marry her, we can't help but admire their efforts.
If you say no, I will have you flown back to your family on our private jet. But if you say yes, I will spend the rest of my days making your every wish come true.
Number 4. Stewie sabotages his play. A running gag on the show is that Stewie Griffin is a self-proclaimed brilliant writer.
The American play was dying. Have we brought it back to life here? I can't say that, but it has a pulse.
You're such an amazing writer, Bryan.
When he writes a play called A Passing Fancy, it's a huge hit in Quahog. This inspires Stewie to write his own play, and it should come as no surprise that the brilliant Stewie is also an extremely talented playwright. Bryan doesn't want Stewie to steal his thunder, but Stewie knows his play is good and takes it to Broadway, while Bryan watches his own play begin to crumble.
I knew my play was good, just like I knew your play was a mediocre patchwork of hackneyed ideas and tired cliches.
In the end, when Stewie sees how hard this has been on Bryan, who has always wanted to be a successful writer, the former purposely tanks his Broadway debut to make Bryan feel better.
Stewie, you shouldn't have done that. But thanks.
No problem, Bryan.
Number 3. Stewie fakes Bryan's death. When Bryan hits a dog with his car, he starts to wonder if dog lives are as valuable as human ones.
I just can't believe our society actually values the life of a dog less than that of a human. It's infuriating.
That is infuriating. Maybe you should go bark at a tree and chew on your balls for an hour.
When he tells his family about what he's done, they don't see what the big deal is. And Bryan tries to convince them that this should be taken seriously.
Animals are treated as second-class citizens everywhere throughout this nation. We kill them for food, we humiliate them as pets, and we use them for medical and cosmetic research.
Stewie notices that this whole ordeal has affected Bryan, and he pulls off a stunt to prove to Bryan that his life matters to his loved ones. He stages Bryan's death and lets him see how upset the Griffins become when they think he's gone for good. While he may have used some questionable methods to achieve this, we wouldn't expect anything less from Stewie.
Wait a second, just to prove a point to me, you burned down a liquor store and murdered a dog?
Well, a stray.
Thank you.
Number 2. Stewie Saves Lois. When the residents of Quahog find themselves at James Wood's mansion, a series of murders occur that eventually get blamed on news anchor Tom Tucker.
Well, I think we found our killer.
Oh, now, wait a minute. That's not mine.
I suppose it crawled under your bed all by itself.
Before everyone leaves the next day, Lois discovers that Tom's co-anchor Diane Simmons was the real culprit, meaning Diane can no longer let her live. While we brace ourselves for Lois's death, we hear a gunshot, but instead, it's Diane who gets killed.
Goodbye, Lois.
When the shooter is revealed, it's none other than Stuart Gilligan Griffin. Although he's been trying to kill his mother for years, he still doesn't want to give anyone else the satisfaction. So he saves her, for now.
If anybody's gonna take that down, it's gonna be me.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Stewie brings Brian back to life. Stewie's kindest and most genuine moments are the ones that revolve around his best friend Brian, and this moment is no exception.
Like it took some bullets during our escape. Doesn't seem to be working.
What is that? What is that? What are you looking for?
After some hijinks during a time travel expedition, Stewie and Brian decide to have some good old-fashioned fun. They set up a game of street hockey that quickly takes a dark turn, as Brian is hit and killed by a car. 2 episodes later, Stewie tries to adapt to life without his furry companion.
You know what I want for Christmas? I want my friend back.
Your friend?
Yes, my best friend. My dog, Brian.
But when an opportunity arises to bring Brian back, he doesn't hesitate. Stewie manages to go back in time and save Brian before he gets hit, pulling off a Christmas miracle and bringing back the beloved character.
Brian, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Well, you gave me the greatest gift of all. I'll tell you about it sometime.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.